Hi, welcome to the new series about R Markdown tutorial. This is the first episode, and today I'm talking about how to create an R Markdown file and how to knit it to different types of documents. For example, HTML, Word, PDF, and different types of slides. Alright, let's start. So this is my RStudio platform. Okay, so first let's create an R Markdown file. It is very simple. Go to File, and then New File, and then R Markdown. So R Notebook and R Markdown are similar, but they are still different. We need to create an R Markdown file. Click it, and then this window is prompted. Then you need to give a title to your R Markdown file. For example, I just call it example R Markdown. Okay. And author is my name and date. And there are three default output formats. The first one is HTML. So this one is the easiest one, which requires no additional packages to be installed. You can always start with this one. And if you want to knit it to a PDF file or a Word file, pay attention, something else is needed. If you want to knit it to a PDF file, you need to have LaTeX installed in your computer. Or you need to install a package called tidytext. We will talk about it a little later. And for Word, you should have Microsoft Word installed in order to knit it to a Word file. Okay. So let's start with HTML. Click OK, and then you see automatically the title part is filled, okay, and author. Okay. And date is the system time when we render this Markdown file. And the output format is HTML document. And this is a global chunk option for our code. We can just leave it here for now. Okay. So you see, this is not an empty document, even if it seems that we haven't typed anything yet. Okay. So these are just some sample contents that you can put in an R Markdown file. For example, this is the second order header. Okay, so this is how you insert a link in an R Markdown file, how to make some letters bold, and how to insert some R code, and how to create a plot, etc. Okay, so we will talk about each part a little later in different videos. For today, let's focus on the format of output document. So without changing anything in the content, let's knit it. Since we have already specified the format of the document, we can just click knit. And then since we haven't saved the output yet, we need to give a name of the knitted file. So I can just call it R Markdown example. Okay. And save it. And then you see RStudio started to knit the file. And in this panel, in this render tab, it shows you the status. It seems that it is successfully knitted. And the knitted file looks like this. So you see the title of the file, my name, and the date that the file is rendered. And also you can see the other contents. So what if I want to knit it to a Word file? First, beside this knit button, there is an arrow. Click it, and you can see that you can choose to knit it to a Word file. Just click this one. And then RStudio will render it to a Word file. And automatically there is one row added here, output. So the Word file looks like this. So it looks different with the HTML file. Okay, the title, subtitle, author name, everything is centered. Okay, so this is Word file. And how about PDF? You can also need to PDF if you have LaTeX installed. If you haven't got LaTeX yet and you still want to knit your file to a PDF file, you can do the following. Okay? In your R console, type the following using install.packages, quote, tiny text, okay, and hit enter. And RStudio will start to install this package for you. Okay, so see it has been installed successfully. Okay. Then we need one more step. Okay. Type tiny text colon install underscore this one. Okay, tiny text parentheses. Okay, tap this and then click enter. And then I said that I already have it because I already have it. Okay, so I will just hit no, but you don't have it, so you should type Y. Okay, and then you're done. Okay, so 2 steps. Okay. And after you install the package, you probably need to quit RStudio and then reopen it. Then you should be able to knit the Markdown file to a PDF. So let's see how to do it, how to knit the original file to a PDF. Okay, so click here, okay, then click knit to PDF. All right, you see, this is the PDF file. I just knitted. After we knitted this our Markdown file to 3 different formats, all of them are shown here, okay, in the output part of the header. So pay attention. Usually we cannot knit the Markdown file to more than 1 format at a time. So we should make 2 rows to be comments, okay, so that the Markdown file will be knitted to only 1 format. Okay. We can also knit the R Markdown file to some types of slides. For example, HTML slides. There are 2 options for HTML slides. The first one is slidey presentation. Okay. So I usually use it to generate my lecture slides in class. So see, there are 3 slides generated. So you may have noticed that this double sharp sign indicates a new slide. So slide 1, slide 2. Okay, and we also always have a title slide. So you see there are 3 pages in the lecture slides that we generated. So yet another option is IO slides presentation. Let's take a look at this option. Okay, so it looks slightly different from the last option. Okay. So you see that it's less flexible because the length and width of the slide is fixed. Okay. And previously when we used a slidey presentation, the length is not fixed. Okay. The length is not fixed. So each slide could be very long. So usually I use slidey presentation when I create my lecture slides. Okay, especially for my classes using R. Okay. And yet another option is creating PDF slides, Beamer slides. Beamer presentation. And this one is also less flexible. Okay? The length and width of the slides are fixed. Okay? So let's knit it, and pay attention, you have to have latex in order to knit it to a PDF slide. And of course, if you have installed TinyText and followed my instruction, you should be able to knit your Markdown file to Beamer presentation too. So let's try it. And Beamer slides and PDF files have some advantages, especially if you want to type some mathematical notation and some formulas, expressions, derivation of something. Okay, it's more convenient to use latex. And sometimes it's required to use PDF format. In that case, you have to knit it to PDF. Okay, so you see this is the knitted file. Okay, again, the length is fixed. Okay, so make sure you don't put too much stuff in one slide if you want to knit to Beamer slides. Alright, this is our first video about R Markdown. We talked about how to create an R Markdown file and different formats of output files. And in the second video, I'm going to talk about how to manage text in R Markdown documentation. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye. Hi, welcome back to the R Markdown series. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to manage texts. Okay, take a look at my screen. I created a new R Markdown file called text formatting. Okay. And again, by default, R provides this sample content in an R Markdown file. So let's first delete all of them. On the left part of the screen, you can see an outline of the text formatting with R Markdown. Let's start with the basic text formatting in R Markdown. Okay. So let me type a sentence. Okay. Suppose I want to make today italic. I just use asterisks to wrap today. And if you want to make some part bold, just use 2 asterisks. For example, I want to make R Markdown bold. I just do the following. Okay. Then let's knit it and see how it looks like, the whole sentence. You see today is italic and R Markdown part is bold. Okay. And I suggest you to knit your file often. Whenever you finish one part, one small part, knit the file and check if there is any error. Okay. Don't wait until you finish the entire R Markdown file because it will be very difficult to find any error or any bug. Okay. And next one is code. Okay. So you can use backtick to wrap inline code. Okay. If you don't want to run the code, you want to do any calculation using inline code, then don't type R in it. If you want to do some inline calculation, type R in it. Okay, let me show you. Okay, so for example, let us calculate 5 times 3. Okay. Then this part will be shown as code in the output. Okay, let me knit it. So see, this part is kind of shaded lightly, okay, but no calculation is done. Okay, only the code is shown. But if I want to do calculation, I can insert R in it. Okay, R space, okay, then do the calculation. Then R will do the calculation for you and show the result instead of the code. Okay. So for example, let's knit it. Let's see what happens. You see, let us calculate 15. Okay, so it looks weird. A better way is to use code and show the result. It's very convenient, especially if you want to insert some output and that you just did in previous calculation. You can put it here so that whenever you need your R Markdown file, you have the real-time result from your article chunk. Okay. All right, so this is code and superscripts and subscripts. I seldom use them. Let's try it. So let's see. The first place is John. That's needed. Okay, so it works. Okay, so you don't need to use parentheses to wrap the superscript. How about subscript? Okay, x subscript 2 is equal to 5. That's needed. Okay, it works. Okay. So you see that you don't need to use parentheses to wrap your superscript or subscript. All right. Now headings. So in R Markdown, you can use these different levels of headers to denote relationship among your texts. For example, let's text the first order. Notice that there is a space, okay, in between the sharp notation and your text. Okay, otherwise, R Markdown cannot recognize that it is a header. Okay, there should be a space here. So let's go ahead and create different levels of headers. I just copy and paste all of them. Let's try 6 levels. 4th, 5th, and you can observe their difference. Okay. Okay, finally, let's knit it. Okay, you see the first level is the largest. Okay, just slightly smaller than your title. Okay, and second level, okay, third level. Okay, and remember, if you want to create lecture slides, then second level header indicates a new slide. Okay, pay attention to that. We rarely use first level header actually. Okay, and rarely use smaller headers because I think this is this is the same size with our regular text. Okay, and pay attention. Notice that whenever I want to change a line, okay, for normal text, I need to insert an empty line in between. Okay, otherwise, we have to type 4 spaces at the end of the line. So for example, I can do the following and get rid of the empty line. I need it. So see, it still changed the line. Okay. And similarly here, type 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. Okay. That means I will change the line. Okay. But for headers, you don't have to do anything. So R Markdown assumes that each header should have its own line. Okay. And next one is lists. Okay. Sometimes we need to use lists to show some items. Okay. So there are different types of lists. First, unordered list. Okay. So in other words, bullet points. Okay. There are different ways. First, you can use hyphen. Okay, it's hyphen space. Okay, item 1, Okay, then hyphen space item 2, and then hyphen space item 3. Okay, so this will create bullet points. Okay, no order. Okay, no order. So for example, let me knit it. Okay, so see 3 items. Okay. And you can also have second layers in unordered lists. For example, you can do the following. Okay. Alternatively, you can use plus. Okay, just pay attention, there is a space, okay, between the hyphen and plus and the text itself. Okay, so let's knit it and see what happens. Okay, so see, it doesn't matter you use plus or minus, okay, for the second layer, but just make sure you put some spaces here. I use 2 tabs. Okay, I used 2 tabs to create a second layer. And how about ordered lists? Okay. It's also very simple. You can just directly type 1, okay, item 1, 2, item 2. Okay. Then the items will be listed with ordering labels. Okay. Oh, by the way, actually for unordered list, you can also use asterisk. For example, okay, bullet 1, okay, bullet 2, etc. Okay, so you also can have bullet points. Okay, use asterisks. Okay, so see bullet 1, bullet 2. Okay. The next topic is how to insert links and images to your R Markdown file. Okay. So first, links. Okay. So there are multiple ways to do it. The first one is to directly show the address of the link. Okay. You show everything. Or directory, okay, or path. Okay. So in this case, you use triangle parentheses. Okay. Okay. Insert the link in it. So for example, I want to insert the link for Google. Okay. Just copy the address and paste it here. Okay. And then you see this whole part will become blue, okay? And if we need it, then in the R Markdown file, it is shown in this way, okay? The entire directory is shown here, and it is highlighted as light blue, and you can click it right away. Okay? The second way is to give a name of the website you want to show, but hide the address. Sometimes it is a preferred way to do so because it looks better. Only show the label. Okay. So in this case, you need to use a square bracket to provide the label. For example, I type Google. And then use regular parentheses to wrap the true address of it. Okay, and then if I knit it, so see it looks like this. Okay, so if people click this one, they will be directed to this address again. So our next topic is how to insert images into an R Markdown file. So there are 2 ways. So the first one is to show the image directly. Okay. So let's see, suppose the image is saved locally in my computer, okay? And it's a puppy, okay? So in this case, if I want to show the image, I need to use this exclamation mark and then square bracket and then my puppy, then regular parentheses, then insert the path in the parentheses. Okay, so let me find my picture. So suppose the picture is here. I want to insert this one. Okay, I just copy the path and paste it here. Okay. And pay attention in R. Okay. We have to use / instead of \. And then the image name. Okay, and immediately you see it has been shown here. Okay. So let me knit it and see what happens. If you think this is too big or something, you can also adjust the width of the image by doing the following. Okay. Type curly bracket, then width equals, for example, 50%. Okay. Then the image will be 50% of the width of your output. Okay, of your output. Okay, you see this is how it looks like. Okay. Suppose you don't want to show the image itself. You only want to show the label. Okay. In this case, you can just get rid of the exclamation mark. Okay, for example, get rid of this. Okay, then I need it. So see there is a link here. Okay. But in this case, I don't think other people can see your image. Okay. Secondly, you can also insert an online image in your R Markdown file. Okay. It's a little bit tricky. Let's see how to do it. Suppose I want to insert an image of a dog. So I search dog in Google and I got these pictures and then I click this link. I was directed to this website and then I right click and choose open image in new tab and then I finally am here. Okay. And then copy this path and insert it in your file. Okay. So for now, suppose I still want to show the image. And then again, insert the link. Okay. And again, suppose I want it to be 50% of the width. Copy it here. Okay. And then knit it. Okay, you see the image is here. Okay. And just pay attention if you use any online images. Make sure you show the source of the image. Of course, for this online case, you can also omit the image and just show the label. Cute puppy online. Then you click it and then you knit it. You see that in this case, only a label is shown, okay? But you can click it and get to the page, okay? Get to the web page you want. Okay. So this is how we manage images in R Markdown. And last one, how to insert basic tables in R Markdown. There are certainly other ways to insert tables. For example, you can create a table in some R chunk and print out pretty tables. Okay. But now let's just focus on the very basic table. For example, let me create a very small table about student information. Student ID, name, and age. Okay, so 3 columns. And then we need a line that specify the structure of the table. Okay. basically the alignment option for each column. So by default, I believe all of the columns will be centered. Okay? And you can just put some hyphens in each column. Okay? And don't forget the bar. Okay? The bars are used to separate different columns. For example, the first student ID is 001, and then John, and then 20. Okay? Second, 002, Mary, 21, and then 003, Taylor, 19. Okay. Then let's knit it and see how it looks like. Okay. So see, by default, actually these are all aligned to the left. Okay. And the column names are centered. So it looks a little weird. Okay? The table always occupies the entire width of the page of the output. Okay? So suppose I want the student ID to be centered, okay, and name to be aligned to the left and age to be aligned to the right, okay, because you will usually align numbers to the right. So what shall we do? We can use column. Okay? For example, student ID, I want it to be centered. Okay? So you should put column in front of and behind the hyphens. For name, I want to align the names to the left. So put column on the left, okay, in front of all the hyphens. And for age, I want to align to the right. Okay? So put column on the right. Then let's knit it. Okay, so see the table looks better. Okay, age is right, aligned to the right. Name is aligned to the left. Student IDs are centered. Okay. All right, that's all for this video. Thank you for watching. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how to insert our code chunks in our Markdown files, and how to manage different chunk options. Okay, see you next time. Bye. Hi everyone, welcome to the R Markdown series. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to insert R code chunks and how to manage chunk options. So I created a new R Markdown file and removed the default contents. So now let's see how to insert R code chunks. There are three options. The first one is to use the insert button in the editor toolbar over here. Okay, so this little green button, click arrow and click R. Okay, so in our class, we only insert R code. You can also have other options. For example, you can even insert Python code in R Markdown. Okay, so let's choose this one, and immediately, so this code chunk is shown in your R Markdown file, and we can type some code here. For example, define two variables. Okay, and then calculate x times y. Okay. And after we insert this code chunk and we think this little task is done, we can test the code by clicking this little green arrow here. So this one will only run this chunk, and immediately you can see the result. So we can also knit the file. Since there is no error in the code chunk, we are confident that the R Markdown file can be knitted successfully. Okay. So see, this is the R Markdown file with one R code chunk. Okay. Another way to insert an R code chunk is to use a keyboard shortcut. For Windows system, you can use Control plus Alt plus I. And for MacBook, you can use Command Alt and I. Okay, so for example, I can use my keyboard, Control Alt I, and then I have an empty code chunk. Okay, similarly, I can just type them directly. Pay attention, these are not regular quotes in the keyboard. These are backtick. So it is on the upper left corner below the escape key. Alright, we can do the following. I just type tick, 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 and curly bracket, R, and then change line, and tick, 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 and we're done. Okay, so 3 ways. Alright. Now let's talk about chunk options. Okay. There are actually many more options than this list, but I think these are the most important ones that everyone needs to know. So let's talk about them. First, chunk evaluation. Okay, chunk evaluation. So suppose you have a code chunk and you don't want to evaluate it. You just want to show it. Okay, maybe there is an error in the chunk and you couldn't figure out. You can set evaluation equals false. Okay, so by default, it is true. Okay, so set it to be false. Then let's knit it and see what happens. So see, the code is shown here, but no calculation is done. Okay, so it is not evaluated. The second option is echo. So this one is used to control whether or not you want to show your code. So by default, it is true. So by default, the code will be shown in the output. And this one, pay attention, only controls whether or not the code will be displayed, but it will not control whether or not the code will be evaluated. Okay. So let's see. Echo equals false. Choose false. Okay. Now let's see what happens. So only the result is shown. So the output of this R chunk is just x times y, which is 50. However, the entire code chunk is omitted. Okay. Sometimes it's very useful, especially when you create some plots. And maybe you use a very long program to create a plot and you want to omit that tedious part and only want to show the plot. Then you can use echo equals false. Okay. But the code is still evaluated. And the last set of options are about text output. So by default, if there is anything wrong, R may give you some warning message, but the code can still continue. Okay, let's see one example. Okay, let me insert some R code. Okay, let's define 2 vectors. So A equals 1 to 10 and B equals 1 to 3. Okay, and let's multiply A and B together. Okay. So if we run this, you see there is a warning message printed. Longer object length is not a multiple of shorter object length. Okay. Although there is a warning message, the program is not stopped, okay, because it's not that crucial. Okay. So if we knit it, you see the warning message is shown in your output. Okay. If you don't want to show the warning, you can set warning equals false so that the warning message will be omitted. Okay, so the warning is gone. So whenever there is a warning message, the program can still proceed. Okay. What if there is an error? For example, let's just type hello world directly here. Okay, for beginners, it's very natural to type some text in an R code chunk directly, and we know that R cannot accept this kind of input, right? You see immediately, already see this cross here. That means it doesn't work. Okay, let's try to knit it. Okay, you see there is an error. Okay, and the program stopped. Okay, and your R Markdown file cannot be knitted because of this error. If you really want your R Markdown to be knitted, no matter what, okay, even if there is an error involved in your R code, you still want to get some output. In that case, you can use the error option. Okay. to allow errors in your code. So error equals true means you allow error in your R code. And of course, the message will be printed. The error message will be printed. You see the result. Okay. So the code is shown and the error message is shown. And this is a way to sort of show some errors in the code. For example, for teaching purpose somehow. Okay. And by default, error is false. Oh, sorry, the slide is wrong. So there isn't typo here. Okay. Default value is false, actually. Okay. Default is false. Originally in neater, the default value is true. However, when neater is built in R Markdown, the default value of error become false. Okay, so this is error. So the next chunk option is message. Okay, so this is a very general option. If you want to suppress the message that is printed by R Markdown, you can just set message equals false. Okay. And for example, warning message, error message, or message about loading a package, all of these are messages. You can choose to suppress them using message equals false. Okay, let's see one example. Let's load a package called tidyverse. Okay, let's run it. Okay. So since tidyverse actually includes a lot of different packages, some message is printed out for you directly, okay, whenever you load this package. So in the R Markdown output, if you want to omit this message because it's useless, you can choose to suppress them using message equals false. Okay, then you need it. Okay. So see, the package is loaded, but the message is gone. And last one is include. Default value is true. So this controls whether to include the chunk output in the output document. If false, nothing will be written into the output document, but the code is still evaluated. Let's see one example. Okay, so let's insert one code chunk. Okay, and suppose I want to plot some normal random numbers, and I don't want to include the output of this chunk in the output document. Then I can do the following. Okay, include equals false. So if you click this green arrow, you see that nothing happened, but actually the code is run, is evaluated. Just the output is not shown. Okay, let's knit it. Okay, so see the entire chunk is not in the output. Okay, the output is not there, the code is also not there. So everything is gone. Okay, it's hidden in the R Markdown file. And one more thing, you see that we can load packages in R Markdown, but never install packages in an R Markdown file, because you will have trouble. And there is a principle when you create an R Markdown file. That is, you don't want to change other people's computer, because one of the purposes of using R Markdown is to share your code with other people. But if you share your code and there is installed packages including R Markdown, it will actually change other people's computer. And in principle, this is not a good practice. Alright, I think that's all for this video. Next time, I'm going to talk more about plot. Okay, creating plots in our Markdown file and how to control chunk options whenever there is a plot created by that chunk. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye. Hi, welcome to the R Markdown series. In today's video, I'm going to talk about how to create plots in R Markdown files and how to use chunk options to control the size of plots. So first, let's create a plot. I'm going to use the built-in dataset cars. Let's take a look at the structure of the dataset. There are only two variables, speed and distance. To know more about this dataset, we can type question mark cars in R console. and see the help page about it. So the data give the speed of cars and the distance taken to stop. So the data were recorded in the 1920s. This is a very old data set. Now let's create a basic scatter plot using the plot function. Let's knit the Markdown file. See how it looks like. Okay. So it has some default size. If you think this is too wide, we can adjust the width of the figure using the chunk option fig.width. For example, we change it to 4. Let's knit it again. So apparently the height wasn't changed. Only the width has been changed to 4. Okay, it's narrower. We can also set the height using fig.height option. So you can imagine by doing so, the plot would be somehow like a square. But not exactly. It is almost a square. However, you see there is more space over here. Okay, but the entire plotting region is a square. So this is one way to adjust the size of the plot. Alternatively, we can use alt.width option. Suppose we want it to be 50% of the width of the page. We can use quote 50%. Okay, pay attention, the quotes are needed. Then we can knit it. Okay. So in this case, we will keep the default shape of the plot, but the width of the plot will be 50% of the width of the page. So let's see some other ways to change the size of plots. Let's first get rid of this one and then scroll up. So notice that there is a chunk over here. Okay. Previously, we just ignored this chunk, but this part is used to set all global chunk options. For example, echo equals true by default. Okay. So suppose we put alt.width equals 50% here. Then let's see what happens. Okay, so you see it also works. So it will make all of the plots 50% of the width of the page. Okay. We can also set fig.width equals 4 or 5 here. We can also adjust the size of the plot in the output by changing this default option in the YAML header part. So for example, we can say fig width 5, okay, and fig height 5. Okay. Let's knit it again. Okay. You see now it also works. Okay. What if there is a conflict between the global option and the local chunk option? Let's test it. Okay. Apparently, our local option override the global option, which makes sense. We can set a global option for all the plots in our Markdown output, but occasionally we can change the option for some plots. So this gives us some extra flexibility. And you can play with it. For example, we change the width to 60%. and we still keep this global option, output option like this. Okay, it should be a square. So in this case, you see that the two options were combined. Okay, they work together. So in terms of shape, it's still sort of like a square, but the entire plot occupies 50% of the width of the page. Alright, that's all for today's video. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye.